Long before the first golden rays of the tropical sun pierce through the thick, humid canopy of the deep rainforest, Capi, the capybara, is already awake, his muscles aching with a familiar, deep-seated fatigue that never truly leaves his bones. Every single day, without a moment of respite or a second of hesitation, Capi exerts every ounce of his physical strength to push a heavy, creaking wooden cart laden with meticulously sliced sweet oranges toward the bustling jungle market. The journey is arduous, the terrain is uneven, and the air is thick with the scent of damp earth and the competitive roar of commerce. Capi works 14 grueling hours under the relentless burning sun, his fur matted with sweat and dust, as he trades his labor for the meager paper leaves that serve as the currency of the jungle. At the end of every exhausting cycle, Capi sits on a mossy log and begins the heartbreaking ritual of counting his earnings.
It is always the same story, a mathematical tragedy played out in his calloused paws. 3 leaves must go immediately to the landlord for the privilege of a roof over his head. 2 leaves are vanished by the cost of the very food he needs to maintain his strength for the next day's labor, and 1 leaf is snatched away in taxes to maintain the jungle paths. When the counting is done, Capi is left with 0 leaves. Not a single fragment of his 14 hours of toil belongs to him. He is exhausted, trapped in a cycle of survival that feels more like a prison than a life. As he watches Boss Alligator glide past in a luxury log car, polished to a mirror shine and powered by the labor of others, a bitter thought takes root in Capi's mind. He wonders how it is possible that he works harder than anyone he knows, pushing himself to the absolute limit of biological endurance, yet he remains perpetually poor, while others seem to accumulate wealth with effortless grace.
Today, however, the veil is about to be lifted, and the secret formula that the elite monkeys and the wealthy predators of the jungle use to escape this metaphorical hamster wheel will finally be revealed, exposing why hard work in total isolation from financial strategy is nothing more than a sophisticated trap designed to keep the workers running until they break. The breaking point arrives sooner than Capi expects. One Tuesday, as the midday heat reaches a suffocating peak, disaster strikes with the sudden, sharp crack of splintering timber. Capi's wooden cart, weakened by years of neglected maintenance and heavy loads, collapses entirely. The axle snaps, the frame twists, and hundreds of his precious sliced oranges spill into the thick black mud of the jungle floor, rendered worthless in an instant. Capi stands frozen, the silence of the jungle suddenly deafening.
He wants to cry, but his throat is too dry. He has no leaves saved to fix the cart, no surplus to buy a new one, and no way to earn more with the very tool that just broke. He is a heartbeat away from total ruin when, suddenly, the wise orangutan appears from the shadows of the ancient ferns. The elder does not offer pity. Instead, he helps Capi stabilize the broken wheel with a temporary vine binding. As they work, the wise orangutan speaks in a voice that carries the weight of centuries. He looks at Capi's trembling hands and says that while Capi has the strongest palms in the quadrant, he is merely running in circles, chasing a tail he can never catch. He explains that if you spend 100% of what you earn, you are not a free being. You are a sophisticated slave to your own expenses. The orangutan then imparts the first, most vital rule of the wealthy. You must pay yourself first.
He commands Capi that from this moment forward, he must take 10% of every single leaf he earns and hide it away in a secret glass jar, buried where no tax collector or landlord can find it. Capi argues, his voice cracking with desperation, claiming it is physically impossible to survive on less when he barely survives now. But the orangutan is firm. Capi tries it, trembling as he hides that first small fraction of his labor. It hurts. It requires a level of sacrifice that feels like hunger, but for the first time in his entire life, Capi gazes into that jar and realizes he finally owns a small piece of his own existence. A few weeks pass, and while Capi has managed to accumulate a handful of leaves in his jar, his daily life remains a desperate struggle of scarcity. He returns to the wise orangutan, frustrated and cynical,
complaining that although he saved the 10%, his reality hasn't shifted.
The wise orangutan laughs, a deep, resonant sound that echoes through the trees. He explains that saving 10% is merely planting the seed, but if one does not organize the rest of the soil, the seed will surely wither and die in the shadows. To illustrate this, the orangutan takes a broad, flat leaf and carves a secret code into its surface, 15-15-70. This, he explains, is the magic math of the 15-15-70 formula. The first 15% is for the shield, an emergency fund designed to absorb the shocks of life. When Capi falls ill or the rain stops the harvest, he draws from the shield so that he never, ever has to touch the 10% seed. The second 15% is for the spear, the capital reserved exclusively for business growth and offensive expansion.
Capi is instructed to use this fund to buy a sharper, more efficient knife and a wide umbrella for his cart, allowing him to slice oranges faster and continue selling even during the torrential monsoon rains. The final 70% is what remains to live on: rent, food, and the occasional simple pleasure. Capi is shocked, his mind reeling at the impossibility of living on only 70% of his already meager income. The wise orangutan nods solemnly, telling him that if he cannot live on 70%, then he is living a life he simply cannot afford and is pretending to be someone he is not. He must learn to sell smarter, to increase his value to the jungle, rather than simply offering more hours of his failing strength. Capi begins to apply the formula with a disciplined, almost religious fervor. The transition is brutal.
He stops buying the fermented berry juice after work. He eats simple, unadorned bananas instead of the seasoned tubers he prefers. He ignores the new trendy sunglasses that all the other monkeys are wearing to look successful. But as the months turn into seasons, a quiet magic begins to take hold. The 15% allocated to his spear allows him to buy a mechanical juice pressing machine, which multiplies his output by 5. He is no longer just selling slices, he is selling premium juice. His income swells. The 15% shield protects him when a week-long storm floods the market, allowing him to stay calm while others panic. And his 10% seed, untouched and respected, begins to grow into a massive metaphorical tree of wealth. 5 years later, the transformation is complete. Capi no longer pushes a heavy wooden cart through the mud. He stands at the helm of the largest orange juice empire in the jungle, employing dozens of others and providing value to thousands. He is free, not because he stumbled upon a pot of gold or won a lottery, but because he mastered the discipline of the math and refused to let the math of his expenses control his destiny. However, the story does not end with simple success, for there are greater predators than broken carts and rainy days. The wise orangutan warns Capi that leaving his growing pile of leaves in a simple glass jar is a hidden danger, for there is a silent, invisible monster known as inflation that creeps into the jar at night and nibbles away at the value of the leaves until they are nothing but dust. To truly protect his future, Capi must find a way to make his 10% seed multiply automatically, working for him while he sleeps. He needs a vessel, a platform where his wealth is not just stored, but where it gathers interest and compounds against the ravages of time. But even with the perfect investment strategy and the 15-15-70 formula in place, there is one final, massive trap that the monkey government has set deep in the jungle floor. It is a trap designed to steal the majority of a worker's wealth just as they reach the age of rest, hidden under the guise of security and social promises. To truly be free, Capi must understand why the modern pension system is secretly the largest pyramid scheme ever devised, and why relying on it is the final mistake that keeps even the most disciplined monkeys in chains until their very last breath.